Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Keith Pascal. Today we're going to talk about TQL conditions. You can fine-tune the result of a set that you're returning from a TQL with different types of conditions. For example, attribute conditions. Those are based on CI attributes. An example of that might be a name. I'm looking for a server with a name that starts with FTC. Another way that you can restrict what you get back is on cardinality. For example, I want to have a minimum and or a maximum number of connected CIs. So I could say nodes with more than 10 IP addresses. I can also use identifiers, which is a specific set of identities that you can run the query against. You can also run it based on qualifiers, which are categories, which are based on CI types. Here are a couple of examples. On the left side, we're getting all Windows nodes with a host name beginning with FTC06. Now there's a percent on there. A percent is a wildcard. And we want to get their IP addresses. You can see that some of the CIs that are displayed have a single IP address. Some have multiple IP addresses, and that's okay. On the right-hand side, if we do some cardinality restrictions, I could say I want all Windows nodes with 2 or more IP addresses. And you can see that we do not display any CIs which only have a single IP address. This thought of cardinality is an important one in UCMDB. And it acts from both sides of the relationship. For example, I can have a triangle connected to a circle where I want to see only the triangles that have 2 or more circles, but I'm going to display the circle if they're connected to 1 or more triangles. So it has to fulfill the relationship cardinality on both ends of the relationship. This will become a little more important later. How many triangles are connected to 2 circles? That's correct. There's only one. The one triangle that is connected to 2 circles. That is your result set. Let's look at another one. And this is a little odd maybe. The 0 to many is a pretty special condition. So in this case, I want to see all of the squares with 0 or more links to a circle, but I'm only going to display the circles that have at least one connection to a square. Another way of thinking about that would be, let's say that I wanted to select all nodes from UCMDB where they are connected with an IP address, but even if it doesn't have an IP address, I still want to show the node. The result set for that is all of the squares and the circles that are attached to the squares. Note that not all circles are represented. For example, the circle that's connected to this triangle, this circle connected to this triangle and that triangle, because they do not meet the TQL conditions. You can click on and add an attribute condition, and you can define those parameters. For example, we have an attribute name. You would go ahead and click the add button to add this and then fill in the bottom section, which will then populate the row. If I wanted to add a second row, I can click the add button again and so on for a third row. So you put an attribute name here. This is from a drop-down list, in this case, name. Your operators are things like equal, not equal, greater than, like ignore case, etc. In this case, like ignore case, which allows me to use a wildcard. It can be a parameterized value, but making it parameterized actually saves it as a template. Then users can load that template and they can fill in the value for, in this case, the name that they want to look up. So in this way, you can actually make a customizable TQL that can be run multiple times against different data sets so that you can actually get different information. In this case, we've got %FTC%. The percent at the beginning means match anything that starts with anything, then has an FTC in it. The percent at the end matches any character after FTC. So in this case, we're looking for any node with a name, we're like ignore case, where it either begins with any character and has FTC and then ends with any character. You can see there's a little drop-down list that will populate as you're typing so that you can see what your results are from UCMDB as a quick check. Here is the result of Windows machines with the %FTC percent. Actually, I think this is %FTC06%. So we can see that all of these CIs start with FTC06. Likewise, you can specify cardinality. There are a couple of buttons over here. This one-to-many and zero-to-many are the two most common operators that we use. One-to-many being there's at least one and maybe an infinite number. Zero-to-many meaning show that CI even if it's not connected to the second CI. In this case, we would read this as a containment link between a node and an IP address from the node to the IP address, where there's at least one IP per node, at least one, but there could be an infinite number. If the minimum and maximum are both populated with numbers, then it's read as between. So if it is 1 and I had a 5 here, it would be between 1 and 5 CIs. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you have a great day.